Okay, we can go ahead and officially start. Sorry for being a couple minutes late there. So, how have you been? Happy Mother's Day first.
Oh, yes. Happy Mother's Day. Thank you. Um, Actually, it's been a lovely weekend in my area. And so it's been wonderful. I've been outside a lot of the day on my deck and, eating, drinking, just sitting there and hanging out with my boyfriend. And I had my son over earlier. And so it's been a lovely, lovely day. So it's been very, very nice. So I've been really enjoying the day. And so, so how about you? How's your day been?
Pretty good, I guess. Not non-consequential. Actually, it started off really beautifully. I did turn off my volume on my phone because I really needed to get some rest.
Ah,
I figured my son would probably call me at an ungodly hour since he's been calling like at 5:30 in the morning. He gets up to
oh,
exercise.
that's
So
early.
the phone rings, then it's like, oh my God. But I hate missing his calls. So, but anyways, he called, he texted, and then he FaceTimed me with Amelia, and even Kelsey showed up for a few minutes. So that was a
Oh,
treat. We had a
very
nice time.
nice.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, very
And
nice.
yeah, and let me just double check if
How Ayana is making out. I know she had a bit of stuff going on.
yes, there is a text from her. Let's see, what does she say? Thank you for everything you do for your family and your students, and happy Mother's Day to you, Sylvia. Your son is so blessed to have you as his mother. All right, so I didn't see that. Thank you. Let me just answer her and see if she's gonna be with us. Um, and happy mamas. Let's ask her if she's gonna join. Yes. Boy, two subs, one death after another. That's pretty rough.
Because her father-in-law passed away, or the children's grandfather,
Yes. Yes.
and it was her cousin's husband also.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, it's a lot of stuff. Mhm.
so, all right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and begin. So let's go share. And what am I sharing? Oops. First, let me get the screen. Yeah, this one. Oh, I will say that my dizziness has been off the charts again, and it's just made it so difficult for me to
Oh,
like
that's not fun.
cognitive. Yeah, the cognition's like really messed up. So just bear with me. I
Yep,
sincerely.
just do what you gotta do.
And let's go to, got that up. Okay, so we can officially start. And you're seeing the first, oh boy, this is the old one. You have the screen up. Do you see it?
I see the screen. Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So, as always, we will begin with any check in regarding your home play for the previous archetype. Whoop. And I know we did last week,
Mhm.
but for some reason there's one image that's not coming up. That's interesting. I had Happy Mother's Day on here, but it's gone. Anyways, just thought it would be, even though we did review last time for
Mhm.
the first session on the fourth archetype, I just thought we've spent so much time in this that if you had anything new, especially being Mother's Day, that you cared to share.
Um, well, I mean, the first thing that's popping into my mind really is about the idea of like my roots, at least some of the family history. And I know I had been chatting with my mother a little bit more, not asking her today in particular, but just like some of the stories that she heard with the family and that, and I thought it was kind of interesting that her her mom's mom died when she was a baby. So then my grandmother, was given to a couple to raise because the father had, X amount of kids and couldn't take them all or feed them all. And I guess it was a real hard time of trying to feed the children so that they wouldn't starve to death. So my grandmother as a baby went to this couple who then took her because they were afraid of losing her because they became attached to her, right? And so they kind of took off for like, I don't know if it was like 10 years or something before they came back to the father. And he said, like, she's good, you're taking good care of her, you can keep her or whatever. And then also the adopted mother had a story of being deported, like in the family line for her, she had the experience of when the French were deported from Canada by the British, and they went to Nova Scotia, and some went, and then they were then forwarded to like Louisiana. And then just the story of, like coming back on foot over maybe months, coming back to Canada, scrounging, trying to do whatever you could, trade, barter to get, enough for food or shelter, and make your way to come home. And so that story influenced my grandmother so that when she had her children, like she named her firstborn, Louisiane, named after, the whole story of being deported. So I thought it was kind of interesting just to kind of get back into a little bit of some of the roots for my family, even though like it's only like one part of the family or whatever, but it was just interesting, like, and it was women, like their experience and that too. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
That's fascinating. Yeah. Wow. What a story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also interesting to see how it might weave into, if I'm sure in some way, into your own life or your kid's life, or there's usually a connection, you know?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Like there's a displacement with part of the family in different ways. And then like how I have been living or how I grew up. And then I think it's kind of unusual too that I've looked at my children's charts where I've punched them in. And we do have an emphasis with the fourth house, which is the Cancer home. It's not that sign, but it's that fourth house that has like Pluto in it. And some of us have maybe other planets in there as well. But here my kids kind of have, so like I'm thinking, what's the theme? Like you're like fourth
Mhm.
house, like, and the different issues that can come up that somehow it makes you feel like, it's not like one person being singled out. Like there's kind of a story, like a wave in the generation that somehow there's sort of a shared experience. So I was kind of investigating that a little bit and just kind of thinking about it and the different things like that you've brought up in the sessions or whatever. And so it just raises a bit of more questions, right? Like, I start to think of, more about where I've come from and then what I've been doing going forward and how it's affecting my children's lives or the lives that they come to be born and experience, right? So I thought it was kind of an interesting, I've never really thought of it that way before. So I thought the whole experience of trying to, put some of that together and just kind of think about it or let it sink in a bit and stuff. It's just I've never done that before.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're doing it.
Mhm.
But I really honestly feel that this kind of work, especially through the astrological lens, can bring about a liberation of soul, of our soul, and being able to re animate the lost soul parts or fragments that somehow within our own psyche, or as you're seeing within your lineage, your past, your ancestors. So that's, gosh, that's the beauty to me of astrology. And in time, you may, like you're noticing with you and your kids, you're noticing the connecting link in that pattern. um Anyways, it's something that is well worth continuing to dive into. And as we leave this particular sign and we move into the fifth, if Cancer and the moon relate to mom and the matrilineal ancestry, then the sun and Leo in the fifth house somehow connect to the paternal side, to that more masculine heritage. So it'll be interesting to see if you choose to dive into the exploration on your dad's side too, or with the men even on your mom's side, especially since you have sons. So we'll see how
Yeah.
that goes.
Yeah, like I'd be kind of curious to see what would come of it, but I'm certainly going to roll with it and see what I can discover or, you know, uncover or realize and stuff. So
Cool.
I'm in.
Okay, and then as this happens, as this uncovering or rather recovering of these parts of our familial heritage come up, I really feel that we move up the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and we're able to, I don't know, there's something about the root system and the base of the tree of life in our own family that somehow we honor, we heal, and we're then able to continue rising in our own consciousness for ourselves, for the past, and for future generations. Thank you for sharing that. And since we have so much to get through, I'm going to go ahead and dive in. And I have no news from Ayana yet. I'll just check email one last time. No. Okay. All right. So, of course, what we're doing this week is to look for a Leo, what sign is ruling our fifth house, what the sun sign is, and generally the condition of our sun sign is the key component of this week's class. Let me pull out the charts so that I have them handy as we go through class. Because I didn't put together that one slide with both your charts. So of course, you know, well, we know that you're a sun sign Pisces, conjunct the midheaven. We have a nicely populated fifth house for you, Lynn. There are 2 asteroid goddesses, Ceres, which is the mother archetype, and that's Juno, the wife, the partner, and the south node and Neptune. So it's, I don't know, you can feel into whether you consider that a stellium or not. Usually it's the planets that we would consider more of components of a stellium, but you know, feel into it, see if those other archetypes, even though we haven't discussed the asteroids, that there's definitely a lot of energy there. And Venus rules that fifth house because you have Libra on the cusp of the fifth house. And we've already discovered how powerful Venus is in your psyche, given that it's part of an actual stellium in Aquarius. Let's see here. And what house is ruled by Leo? The third house. And no planets in Leo. So, you know, as we go through all the slides, see what pops out to you. If it's the sun that feels the most prominent and influential in your life, as it should for everybody. If the fifth house feels particularly active for you, if it's the third house, even though you've got only one planet in there and no planets in Leo, see if it feels active. And chime in at any time as I go through the slides. I am determined to get through as many as I can.
Okay. Yep.
And not do 2 classes on this.
All right.
And Ayana, who I'm sure she'll see the recording, will go ahead and mention here. Oh, wait, what's today? Oh, we missed her birthday. What's today? Today's like the 11th, I think, 12th. Her birthday was on the 1st.
Last weekend.
Yeah. Well, we hope that you had a great birthday, and in spite of all the family things, and that you're okay, Ayana. So, Sun in Taurus conjunct the midheaven. Is it? No, I'm sorry. Yes, yes, it is. Boy, you both have the Sun
Yeah,
conjunct the
yeah.
midheaven. Wow, another similarity there. Um, and Sagittarius rules her fifth house, and there's no planets in the fifth, although we could consider Neptune as influencing it a bit. And where's Leo? Oh, and gosh, okay, so Leo rising. All right, so that'd be fun to hear from her. It really would be. Two planets in Leo. I take that back. So the ascendant and Saturn are in Leo, plus Pallas Athene, who's one of the asteroid goddesses, and she has to do with a more cerebral kind of energy. Let me see if there's anything else here. And for her as well, Venus is influential in many ways. And because it rules her sun in Taurus, there's that piece. So the sun rule is her life ruler. So Ayana, when you hear this, please take note that since you're a Leo rising, that means the sun is particularly important in your life. So tracking the sun's movement through the skies reflected in your life and consciousness is prime. It's just a primal factor. Whereas, of course, I think we talked about this, Lynn, for you, being that you have Cancer rising, the moon, and tracking the moon cycle through the year is particularly important. So, all right, so that's just to be able to identify what it is that you guys are looking at. So Leo themes, joy and playfulness, and just the act of play, which we'll discover throughout the slides coming up, children, as well as our own, what I call the cosmic child, as opposed to the wounded child, the healthy ego, the development of the healthy ego. But it's also ego as in the spiritual ego spelled with a capital E, which is very different than the regular ego. I'm sure you guys know. Original creative projects. It's also about drama and passion in our lives. So those are the main themes that I am encouraging you to play with this week as we explore Leo, the sun, and the fifth house in our lives. The fifth house is what we'll also be looking at, which, similar to this Leo, is about creativity. It also brings in the energy of love, the heart, therefore love affairs, self-expression, particularly in creative, expressive ways, how you express your uniqueness, because this archetype is all about being unique and individual. And it's the house of joy. You know, how do we experience joy in our lives, as well as how do we express joy? But for me, I think it's mostly the idea of the experience of it, being joyful, connecting with joy, and just that sensation is unmistakable. So we're looking at your sun in Pisces as what's happening in your birth chart, and sun in Taurus for Ayana. We're looking at the sign Leo. So as the sign, seeing how Leo may be expressing itself if you have any planets in Leo. And the fifth house, of course, is where the action is taking place. And so considering what planets you have or points in the fifth house, those planets are the what, the sign that those planets are in is the how, and the fifth house is, of course, the stage where it's all happening. We'll be looking at the polarity between Leo and its opposite, its polar opposite being Aquarius. This is something, of course, you know much of, right?
Yeah,
Lynn?
yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
You can teach this one. It's to me the path of human socialization. So it's the idea of Leo being representative of the individual, the I, who it's similar to Aries, but not yet. I mean, not exactly. If Aries was the announcement as the first sign and the first fire sign of here I am world, here in Leo, the second fire sign, the individual is saying, here I am, this creative being, and just a little bit older, a little bit more grown up, but still not necessarily an adult, as we'll discover in the third and final fire sign, Sagittarius. And then Aquarius, of course, represents the group, the individual and the group. And the polarity also has to do with Leo being the uniqueness, together with Aquarius, the uniqueness and individuality together, almost kind of a homogenous energy of those two. Okay. The sun, of course, is your spirit, your consciousness, your self-aware consciousness. Ideally, the self with a capital S, so self-awareness, becoming much more aware of our true divine nature. Therefore, it's not just, I am a wife, a teacher, a mom, I'm a great cook, all those things, but it's the principle I am, I am that I am. It's what I call your vibrational core essence. As we'll see in future slides, there's a lot that has to do with core. You're a French speaker, I'm sure. So there's this, the word core. How do you say it in French?
Well, my French is not the greatest. So I'm not really sure how to convert that, like for core in French.
It's le. I'm mixing it up with Italian in my head.
I know the Latin languages are similar, like but I can't think of what core would be, if it's almost the same word or I'm not sure.
Something like that. It's and in Italian it's cuore, Cuore. In French it's le, le, and then I think it's ceur.
Okay.
And so we get the idea of the heart, and that's where the word courage is comes from. So what is your core essence? What is your heart essence? What is your basic frequency vibration? And tapping into that, and by really connecting with our sun, our heart, then we can vibrate from that highest frequency, hopefully more consistently.
But now the word is coming to me. Yes, it's la cour, like the heart. It's yeah. I never thought of it that way, but yeah.
Yep.
It's the same word.
Exactly. Yep.
Hmm.
So you as an I, individual spark of the divine. So you get a feel for how the fire signs have this connecting link of this fiery spark that has to do with the individual and individuation, Leo, Aries, and Sagittarius. And it's all about developing a healthy ego as well as the higher ego. The fifth house, as we already mentioned, children, creative projects, playtime, love affairs, and taking risks. That's why it's historically and traditionally been related to gambling. And of course, love affairs, having you're gambling your heart, on somebody. So whether you're looking at it from a traditional or contemporary perspective, astrologically, there is this sense of, all right, I'm just going to dive right in and devil may care attitude. So there's also this, to me, a little energy of the fool here. Well, the fool plays a role in every sign. Oh, whoop. So here's the intensity of the lion that represents Leo, the celestial lion. And we have the lioness and the lion. And
yeah, it makes me think of key 8, strength. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And I'll have that in a future slide as well. But here in this left image, we have a little orange kitty cat who's looking in the mirror, of course. I mean, it's self-explanatory. And what he sees or she sees is this lion. And it's the future self, it's the higher self. Ideally, we develop the little ego to be a reflection of and a manifestation, embodiment of the higher ego. Mm-hmm. This is why the sun is so connected to the solar consciousness, so connected to gods and beings that represent the highest potential within us, such as the Christ and the Buddha. And I've got a slide on different gods to explore. But it's like, what is our highest frequency? What is our highest potential expression is found in the sun. So when there's this, I'm sorry for the language,
but okay, that's okay.
It gets the message across that
is cat is like, this is the way it is, this is the way it is. Yeah, it's perfect.
So eventually we have to reach the point in our self-development that, you know what, who cares what the rest of the world thinks? This is who I am, and nothing can take that power away. So I already went through this, that this is the second of the fire signs. So there's a link between Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. The idea that fire is motivational energy. I'm so strange because part of my slide is covered. I can't see everything it says. Oh. So it's the 5th zodiac sign in the wheel and the second of the 3 fire signs. So some of the questions to ask yourselves is, what is it that stirs your passion or passions, plural? How in touch are you with your creativity? And are you ready to take courage, which, as we explored a few minutes ago, means from the heart, right? Are you ready to take courage and shine your light? Because fire is light. The sun provides us with massive amounts of light and vitality, both physically and metaphorically. So if you were to want to take a crack at it, how do you feel that fire is different as being expressed through Leo than the experience of fire in Aries? Or either how are they different or how are they the same?
Well, in my opinion, Aries always makes me think like initiation and starting things up. Even though with the Boda influence, I'm going like, okay, key 4, it's the emperor, it's sight, a vision. And then with Leo, it's like a development further where it's like an unfoldment of that Aries energy. It's like a further development of that individual, and actually that individual is now expressing what was the intent in Aries. So I kind of find when you mentioned like ego development for Leo, I go like, yeah, like to me, from different things I've read and stuff, I'd go like, that would be my take. Like Aries is starting it up, has a vision, implements, ready to take on a fight if need be. Leo also fiery, and you don't want to mess with them too much.
Mhm.
But I'm thinking it's like a further development of the person, like really self-expression. To me, I'm thinking is Leo.
Very good. Yeah, absolutely. I'm absolutely in agreement. Yeah, it's like Leo takes the spark, it's like if it's a relay race, Aries is passing the spark that it had, that it started running the race, and Leo continues it and grows that fire.
Yeah, like it's a maturity. Like
Mhm.
even though it depends, there's different levels of maturity, but it's like a level of maturity where now there's an expression to that fire.
Exactly. Perfect. And Ayana, when you're listening to the recording of the class, if you want to chime in and share how you experience the two energies differently, that would be great. All right, so we have the main theme is I will, the will, personal will. And again, kind of like having it, the personal will in alignment with the higher will or the divine will. It is fixed fire, so it's very different than, in that sense, than Aries as cardinal fire, as you just mentioned. Aries fire initiated the process, which is proper. But fixed fire, now Leo stabilizes that flame, and continues to work it and ground it and make it more real and viable. We've already started mentioning that the body part that it rules in general is the heart, and it is an active or yang masculine energy. The symbol, let me actually, before I put in all this other stuff, let's talk about the symbol. So the symbol is extremely important. It is the circle, the wholeness with a dot in the middle. So this is why it's extremely important to develop a healthy sense of ego, because if it's allowed to run amok, then it's not in alignment. We are not in alignment with this, what I have said before, the central, the core frequency, which comes from spirit, which is our own divinity. So we kind of will bounce around the what's it called, the perimeter of the wheel of the circle, instead of being in perfect alignment with the core, the heart, the center. So the sun allows us to be able to tap into that spiritual center. So I think I've mentioned this also back in Aries, the idea of the hero's journey or the shero's journey. And again, as we've already mentioned, the idea that Aries fire launched it, initiated, started the journey, and now the hero or the shero is moving forward on that journey and is maturing and experiencing more. I don't remember if I ever put up the image for the hero's journey. Did I in the group? I think I mentioned I was going to do it, but I don't remember if I did.
I don't remember.
Because it's certainly worth looking into. All right, the principle we mentioned is my will, right? But it's also to express my purpose consciously. And the purpose of the archetype is to creatively express myself and to be appreciated, loved, and acknowledged for who I am. I'll put that one up in the group. I think I duplicated some things. Yes, I already said that. Individuation and identity, key issues here. Self-confidence. So the more self-aware we become, the more grounded in the core of our being, then of course we become more self-confident, which can turn into becoming egocentric in a not good way, or if it's allowed to, if we allow the lower ego to run amok. We are to develop our sense of power versus the idea of powerlessness. It has to do with radiance and warmth. Think about the sun. You know, what are some of the things that come to mind when you think about the sun? There's leadership, love, being heart-centered, playful, the joy of being alive. It brings in the frequency of innocence again, vital life force energy, enthusiasm, inspiration, excitement. These are all keywords in general for Leo, as well as aspects of the sun. And the sun is the divine spark within each of us. It is our center, the source, our essence, life force, self-esteem, will, vitality, purpose, life direction, joy, motivation, creative potential, central purpose, and consciousness, the light of consciousness. So this is why throughout the ages, the sun has been in astrology the most important component. Did you guys up in Canada, did you experience the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights?
We certainly do get them from time to time. And actually, my daughter's friend actually just took photos from PEI, and like that's about, I don't know, 6 hours from here or something. But yeah, they're certainly up and present, and it just depends though. Like it's been a long time since I caught them, but they do come from time to time where people will mention it locally and stuff. Yeah. Mhm.
The reason I'm bringing it, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say they're beautiful.
I've never seen them, not even this weekend. The reason I was asking you is because there's something going on this past weekend where they have been showing up as a result of supposedly the solar activity, because we have some major solar storms happening. Like it's not happened this strongly in.
Yeah, I've heard about that too, that a mention of like just increased solar activity. And I mean, I didn't really read more into it or whatever, but I heard it mentioned that there's these solar flares or something like that, and it's like it's really active, and there's a lot going on with the sun and stuff. And yeah, I've heard of that recently. Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that the Northern Lights are showing up in places all over the globe this past week, in the last 2 days, that it's not supposed to be there. So there's two lines of thought on this, that it is the result of the solar activity right now, and there's a solar sunspot that is, what was it? I think it was like 12 times the size of Earth. So there is something going on, which is apparently natural, related to the sun. And it's affecting the entire planet. So this is visible all over the Earth. And there's also the possibility that it is parts of it are manufactured and artificially created by HARP. So, you know, I just thought I'd mention it since we're talking about the sun, and it is expected. I just found this out yesterday myself. There's something called a Carrington event that happened in the 1800s that blew everything out, like all communications, at a time when communication system wasn't such a big deal. But now they're expecting it to happen again, like any minute. And it's called a Carrington event, and it has to do with the solar activity, solar flares, the solar storms. So I just thought about this. It's like, okay, well, this relates to the shadow aspect of the sun. If the sun represents ideally the healthy ego, little ego and big ego, then the right amount of solar radiance warms other people metaphorically in our environment. We are able to creatively express ourselves in a way that inspires others. This is that leadership quality that comes in as well, and the joy of being alive. But if it's overdone, like the sun spots that are throwing flares that in this Carrington event could literally like put us 100 years into the past in terms of the technology, because it would blow everything out, planes and GPS and communication, electricity, I mean, all of it. So that would be akin to um, becoming so egocentric that we blow everything out in our environment. We burn ourselves and others out. Anyways, I just thought there was kind of a real life thing going on right now that connects us to it. All right, so the Leo keywords, there's a bunch here that, again, as before, pick one that really resonates for you, especially in relationship to your sun sign. Pisces for you and Taurus for Ayana, that you want to explore this week. And same with the sun and the fifth house. I'll have this one, I'll put this up by tomorrow in the group so that you can do your home play. And the slides that are coming up pretty much cover all of this. Elaine Maxwell, this is one of my favorite quotes for this archetype. My will shall shape my future. Whether I fail or succeed shall be no man's doing but my own. I am the force. I can clear any obstacle before me, or I can be lost in the maze. My choice, my responsibility. Win or lose, only I hold the key to my destiny. So again, kind of pair this up with the glyph for the sun and what I mentioned about being at that center, being that center point, as opposed to living in the periphery, because it has absolutely everything to do with the will and power. Oh, what happened to my little animation? Oh no, it didn't work. He's supposed to be shooting fire out of his eyes.
Oh no.
Well, just imagine it.
Yeah.
So as with Cancer in the moon and the fourth, I had you choose a goddess or a representation of the divine feminine to connect with, and just develop a relationship with if it resonated. So the same thing for this week. Pick a solar deity, and of course these are just a few of the countless that there are. The most famous is probably Ra, the Egyptian sun god. Helios is another one from the Greeks. Shamash, a Babylonian one. So there are solar deities, male deities from all over the world. So you can choose one of those. And of course, we also have Jesus or Yeshua and Horus in the Egyptian tradition. So depending upon where, I know a lot with the feminine, you chose Mother Mary. And if Yeshua or Jesus resonates for you, then you can work with this. But all of the solar deities and representations of the solar fire, most famously Jesus, have to do with that light of consciousness that is brought to the earth. And I personally firmly believe that these, whether they were mythological figures or whether they are believed to be actual individuals such as Jesus, that they've come to teach us how to tap into that direct divine lineage that we each have. So I personally feel that there is such a thing as Christ consciousness that comes from within, as opposed to an individual that comes to save us.
Mhm.
We are to be birthed into birth our the divine light within us, but that's up to each individual, right? I don't know where you stand with that, but
Yeah, well, I mean, I was brought up traditional Catholic, even though like I didn't have like totally diehard parents that were super stuck on religion. But I mean, I certainly had a good dose of it going to school because where I grew up, they had the separate school system. So you could go to a Catholic school for many, many years, which I ended up doing. And so, I mean, I agree with what you're saying of like, there's the persons that traditionally through religious routes, they'll say, okay, well, Jesus was born and he died to save everybody. And that's one view that people take and can use. And I mean, as you go along, you know, you discover different ways and that essentially, you know, like it's like you might say it's like an archetype of or the divine example, let's say, and you tag the name of saying, okay, Jesus as the life of, and you know, the metaphor, the archetype, and you know, like you can do different things with that and try to relate it because then it becomes a different picture from what you may have gotten a traditional religious background. But when you change it to an archetype, it gets very fascinating, really.
agreed. And it just feels so much more powerful because then we can identify that within ourselves and develop it further. There's so much to say about that, but
There's
there's one.
there's much more to it that you
Mhm.
might have first thought. But you know, like doing things like astrology, doing things like Boda and all that, like you're certainly looking at things from a different perspective, or you know, like there's just a totally different take on it.
Yeah, and me too. I say I'm a recovering Catholic, right?
Hey, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Because yes, I mean, I had years of it. And I think some of it has wonderful components because then I'm thinking, people don't really understand. Oh, that's what that means or what it leads to, or in
Mhm.
my mind, even though I'm thinking, well, I don't know what people are thinking, but then when you go to the other end with like astrology or Boda, and then you look at it, you can kind of pull little pieces of like, oh yeah, okay, you know, and it tells the story and it repeats in different religions or different stories or whatever. It doesn't have to be just a Catholic story or a Christian story and stuff. So
Yeah, then you realize everything kind of overlaps. I mean,
mhm.
my favorite, I was obsessed as a teenager with Revelations. And I knew that it was all symbolic from the time I was a little kid, but the idea of the seven candlesticks, the seven churches, the seven, it's like, the seven
Keeps repeating,
chakras,
keeps repeating.
and if you look at it from that perspective, then you discover more about the divine than if you just take it all literally. So yeah, so in terms of what you're going to do this week, it's yeah, I would like to see you guys connect with one of the mythological solar deities, preferably the masculine, since we did the feminine, the goddesses last time with the
Mhm.
moon. But there are feminine solar deities, one which you ended up getting, and I did too. We shared Amaterasu here. And some of the most famous are Bast and Sekhmet. They're the lioness goddesses of Egypt. And all, like you just alluded to and said, so all the different cultures, the different pantheons, the different uh, tribes across the planet, they all in some way, shape, or form, of course, honor the sun as a divine expression of source, of God. So this is just one, of course, Native American, the Zuni sun dance. Um, and it just you'll hear me say this over and over, and if we look at this archetype, we just will continually come right back to the sense of the divine somehow connects to the heart energy. So Demetra George quote, the sun is the creative potential that resides within each individual. Abadi, who I don't remember what book she wrote, but anyways, the sun is why you are here on earth, where you are going in life, what makes you feel important. It is the purpose in life and the sense of I am. And me, I have said that the sun is your vibrational core essence as your direct connection to source and your core frequency, which can be expressed uniquely only by you. So it is truly to play with this archetype this week. It behooves us because we can truly reconnect, rekindle. Like I have not been feeling creative in a long time, in spite of the fact that I have consistently been so creative that I drive myself crazy. But like I am going to do the homework myself because I have felt like that fire, this that we're talking about has been so covered up that it's become just a dying ember, so it's about fanning those flames until that creative juice comes right back. And we all go through that at different points in our lives. So it behooves us to reconnect with this because we become revitalized. We become creative, perhaps in a new way. And as I said, this is something that is unique to each of us that we get to express in a particularly individual way. And I believe that it connects us to God. This is it. So, all right. So our solar system, as the name says, everything is centered on the sun. So there's that symbol again. Everything is centered around a core, around that core. And in the same way, the astrological sun is the core, the heart of our being, the center of our being. Quantum anatomy is actually one of the many creations that I came up with. I had a website and I don't even know if I still have it. But the idea is you can't live here on earth. We can't exist unless our heart is beating. So I keep coming back to that. Why is the heart not beating? I think the animations aren't working. I had solar flares.
Oh no.
Pumping. So just imagine it's pumping.
Yeah.
So there it is in the body again. It is physically and metaphorically and spiritually the very core of who we are. We cannot be alive without the sun. The earth itself cannot exist unless actually we have the sun and the moon. There's astronomical factors there. So the archetype has to do with taking the lead and turning it into gold by that fanning of the flame. It's okay, a bunch of images now. This is about flowing your passion. It's about connecting with your creative power. It's about taking the small ego self, the personality represented here by the shadow figure, and developing it full force into the light being that we are. So the more we explore the sun in our charts, then the more that we can align with the holy guardian angel as well. And this is, of course, something that's in Boda. Of course, I don't even remember what Boda teaches about it, but I believe that there's a meditation on aligning with the holy guardian angel. So if you have that, you should definitely do it this week.
There's so much material. And then when things come up, you go like, yeah, I read that somewhere, or yeah, that's familiar. And then there's so much information. It's like, Yeah, it can be a challenge to find it again, right? So, but yeah.
Somewhere on in one of my files, I have it. If I find it, I'll post it. And of course, the sun at the noon position directly overhead gives us a completely visceral sense of this alignment, of this attunement. So if you guys do nothing else, maybe go outside at the exact moment that the sun is overhead and just allow that pranic energy, that solar fire, to you just visualize it coming down through the top of your head and grounding down into the earth. Just simple little exercises. Doesn't have to be mega stuff. All right, so you are a cosmic child. Yeah. Oh man, I'm gonna cry because someone stole my anyways, my domain. I don't know how it is that they accessed it.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
Yeah, I've lost a few domains that way. But anyways, I don't have cosmicchild.com anymore. But the idea that, again, we have this, there are two signs to me that, well, three really, that somehow have the frequency of child. Of course, Aries, of course, Cancer, but it's more the mother holding the child in Cancer. And then Leo right now in the sun. All right, well, I guess I covered this already. From your vibrational core essence, you can move into cosmic inner space and outer space. So there, this image, which I use as the logo, it's not mine. I wish I knew who originally created this idea of not the idea, but this particular image. But again, you kind of get the sense of the glyph or the sun. And there it is at the heart. There it is as the heart of both the body and the solar system. Your heart is your connection to all that is. You have a divine purpose. I'll post this because it's just really, really beautiful about how the light is everywhere and everything. All the answers are inside of them, inside our metaphorical spiritual heart. So I'll post this in the group. It's just such great artwork. Oops. More on the heart, your beating heart, the galactic heart, Gaia's heart, and our sacred heart. And awakening to our solar light. Joseph Campbell, who was the one that came up with the hero's journey as a format, which of course every Hollywood film is based on that format. This is my favorite quote from him. Follow your bliss and the universe will open doors for you where there were only walls. And that's so true. And that's, that's why aligning the personal will to the divine will, I think ultimately is the answer. And I think, speaking of, Jesus, the idea of I and the Father are one, that's where that is. Last week I had I was in one of my spaces. You'll understand because it was one of my Pisces spaces.
Yeah, I probably do.
You can't quite put words to it, but the best way that I can explain it is that I had the sense that the Divine Mother, we are inside of the Divine Mother, right? Like we are when we're an embryo in her womb. And that the God the Father is the seed, is a tiny seed that's inside of us. So that's how I was experiencing. God the Father is a seed in my heart, and the Divine Mother is who is holding me in that safe cosmic womb. So why am I forgot why I was sharing this.
You're saying something last week, Pisces moment, and then you got into like being like held by the great mother. But yeah, I totally relate to the whole thing of like being in the womb of the mother. I totally relate with that for sure. Yeah.
And that's where, remember in the very first class, I talked about how each sign is sort of like the foundation for the next one. Or if you want to understand this sign that we're in, some of the rationale for why it is the way it is, you look to the previous sign, kind of like a karmic past. So the mother holds the child, which is the sun and Leo. So you got Cancer and the moon as the womb that births the child, the cosmic child, in the next sign, Leo and the sun. So there's always a connection between Cancer and Leo, or between the moon and the sun. And to that, and you already shared something in the group for one of the, I think it was for last week, of you and your sons. And so here, like this me, I would be the moon, and my son at the time is the sun, mother and son, mother and, so it's just beautiful to me when astrology just starts to come alive
you
in
see
that
it,
way.
you see it everywhere, right? Like you go, yeah, you can see it like symbols everywhere. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Mhm.
So since the sign and this archetype have to do with playfulness and the child teaches us to have fun. And when we're kids, we want to go on roller coasters and do things that are fun, and we want to play. That's all we ever want to do.
That's right. You want to have some fun. Yeah, sure.
So it teaches us to give ourselves permission to have fun. And even when we're on a spiritual path, which we tend to get bogged down with when we get really serious, we need to give ourselves that permission to have that joy, that sense of playfulness. So here it's, again, very similar to with Aries. If we made the statement, I am, back in Aries, now we get to say it again. We know ourselves hopefully better by the fifth point on the wheel than we did on the first. So we can start filling in the blanks with more adjectives. So if you can, feel into this and either journal or share it in the group. Some new form of I am statement, something that you didn't know about yourself before. So this archetype has to do with remembering your life, that your life is like your own TV show, and ask yourself, is it a sitcom, a drama, horror, a mystery? But no matter what, you are the star. So there's actually another course. It's not a course, it's a workshop that I do, that we take our chart, and I created an outline that follows the hero's journey format, assigning different parts to the different planets, and we create a script for our lives based on the charts. So every planet is a character, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, it's the astrological hero's journey. Because it's really interesting to realize that no matter what, everything is something we wrote. We wrote this, we put this together, including some of the horrors. And that's a hard one to swallow, but either we accept it all or not. That we're creators all the way or not. Carl Rogers was a famous psychological educator. I don't know if you're familiar with him. But let's see here. Why? Oh yeah, because it has to do with development of the self. So if we are given what he called unconditional positive regard, meaning we are affirmed as children by our teachers, by our parents, and it's the development of the healthy self, the healthy ego, versus, of course, the opposite, which creates a wounded child and the wounded self, or the negative ego. So in Carl Rogers' humanistic theory of the personality, the realization of our full potential, the actualizing tendency, is the only motive. It succeeds best when the self receives unconditional positive regard. And it goes on also to say, experiential learning was key in Rogers' learning theories, which included personal involvement, self-initiated, evaluated by the learner, and pervasive effects on the learner. And the teacher's role should be facilitative, not dominating. And that's actually how I structured everything in all my experiential courses, is that that my role is to have you question, everything about yourselves so that you can self-actualize on your own during the week that we're not together. And that plus just I really hope that in the time that you are exploring each of the archetypes, you're giving yourself the kind of loving attention that you deserve to have in order to continue to shine that light, to build that self. So my animation's not working here either. Oh well. So on the left, I came up with this. I may have shared this one in Aries too. It just captures that idea of just self-reference in a loving way. So it's this innocence of who you are, Lynn, who you are, Ayana, in your perfected state, in that innocent state with which we came into incarnation, and loving that self in a healthy way. And then not letting the quote unquote system take away that pure, perfect innocence and the creative genius, which says, I'm going to do what I want, but from that healthy perspective. So just if you do anything at all, and if you're having trouble connecting with that core essence, that alignment with divine self, then the easiest way to reconnect is actually through doing something that you love to do as a child. So you're here, you're present right now, Lynn. Tell me something that you used to love doing as a little girl.
Well, the first thing that popped into my mind actually was, I used to love skating. I would skate for hours outside at the outdoor rink that was kind of across the street. And then I did have figure skating lessons for a few years, and there was a time where I just loved it, loved it, loved it. And the closest thing to some of the feeling that I have with that time that I loved it so much is actually going to spin class. It's like, it's a different environment, different animal altogether. And but there's something of the time, well, when I was a kid, the skating. Oh my God, I used to love skating, love skating, love skating.
Did you twirl?
Yeah, like I learned the basics, how to spin, how to jump. I wasn't the greatest, but I learned to do like a few little tricks or whatever. And when you're young enough and you don't care and you just like go for it and you just do whatever, and you might have big wipeouts, mind you, but when you're a little kid, it's not quite the same thing. But yeah, oh, I used to love it, love it, love it.
Do you do it now, or have you substituted it with the spinning?
Very little. I do very little. So when you said, yeah, you could do what you did when you were a kid, I'm like, oh, well, the ice is out, I can't do that. But I go to spin class. I do like spin class, but I'll have to think. I'm gonna have to think what I used to really, really like I can do now. Like I like art stuff. Like I like sitting and coloring and stuff. So there's that. I can do that anytime.
Okay.
Maybe that's what I should do as my little project for the week. Is I haven't done it in a while. And I love doing like the geometry stuff where you can draw different shapes and then you just color, you paint them in, and it's sort of like a doodling. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, maybe some kind of mandala,
Yeah,
since
like that.
that's what it sounds like you're describing. And you talked about spinning, and of course I have this little, the I don't know, I have no idea what it's in English. In Spanish it's calecita, you know, right? And it spins. That's why I asked if on ice skating did you twirl,
Yeah,
because there's this idea.
I'd spin. Yeah, I would spin. Yeah.
So there's this idea, again, with the
The
archetype of
circle.
birth of the sun, you can spin, but you stay in that core,
Yeah. Mm.
Granted, it was kind of fun and dangerous if you spun off this thing. Like carousel? No, I don't know what it's called. But yes, please pick at least one thing that connects you to that free child self that you were, and bring that part of you into the present. Make believe, the innocence of pretending to be something that we weren't quite it yet, but of course in the moment when we were little kids, it was real to us, um and so this also brings in that idea of how this archetype relates to drama and the stage and being center stage. So the imagination and playfulness go together with drama and the stage. So once again, the cosmic child, the divine child, that is perfect until life happens and then we become the wounded child. But until then, and actually always, because once we're able to clear the woundedness, the divine child is still there. So that's why I really ask you guys to do something to have fun and play like you once were, uh, to connect with us, to reanimate this part. Remember that at the onset of the class, I dedicated the course to your inner genius. And that's what I believe we are meant to do, is to express that innate genius. Isabel Hickey quote here. She said, the horoscope is a blueprint of our character. Character is destiny. There is nothing static in this universe in which we dwell. We can change by changing our attitudes and patterns of behavior. In so doing, we change our destiny. An understanding of planetary influences allows you to take your life into your own hands and intelligently utilize the planetary influences that will help you in your evolution if you but will. So I believe that if we reconnect or do our sun, then we are tapping into that innate genius, and we can re-script that blueprint. We can rewrite the parts that may have been less savory during the times in our lives when we were not conscious of the blueprint factors. Oh, no, yeah, that's it. Okay. So just more on the connection between the child self and the light of the soul, the sun as the light of the soul. I love these two. Thomas Armstrong, I don't remember exactly what he was, if he was a psychologist or not, I don't remember anymore. But when I was researching ages ago, the idea of genius and how creativity is expressed, and I had the theory that every single human being has genius. It's just covered up by crap, as we grow up, and then we just lose touch with this part of us. And that's why I do the class, to get you to reconnect or reanimate, or what's that word? Resurrect our energy. That's it.
Good word choice.
Yeah. And it actually is, because me in etymology, resurrect, the word the word is rooted in to stand,
Mm.
to stand up again. So if, you know, we live our lives on this linear horizontal path, which creates time, right? Past, present, future, birth, life, death. But if we resurrect, if we stand up and align ourselves once again with that core, then we are no longer bound by time. We are timeless because we have connected with that divine part, and we have reanimated, resurrected the genius, that divine spark that is in all of us, but, you know, como se dice, just squashed. Anyway, so back to Thomas Armstrong. He has this little tiny book and he talks about the 12 qualities of genius, which I realize is alive in children. It's alive in every one of us, and why I want you to do something that you used to love as a little girl. So curiosity, these are the 12 qualities: curiosity, playfulness, imagination, creativity, wonder, wisdom, inventiveness, vitality, sensitivity, flexibility, and humor and joy. So those are the 12 qualities of genius that he came up with. And they're all with us as kids. But this is a picture at my middle brother's wedding. That's my son, Sebastian.
Oh, wow.
And this is my nephew, Nicholas, and Sabrina's my niece. They're all adults, clearly. I mean, I don't, how old were they?
Cute.
They were tiny, and they look like something out of a mafia movie, you know?
Yeah, they're really cute. They're really cute. They're wearing their tuxes there. And yeah, they do look like Italian or
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, we are half Italian, but it's just somehow in the looks on their faces, and it's just everything about us like, oh man, I'm definitely half Italian mafia, Southern Italian at that. But yeah, and so I don't remember, your kids have not yet, you're not a grandma yet, right?
No, no.
Okay, and your kids are adults at this point, or I
Yeah,
don't.
they're adults, 27 and 29, a boy and a girl, and yeah, no children, no grandchildren.
Are there any kids in your environment, small children?
None.
Mhm.
Absolutely none.
Okay, at the risk of sounding creepy, this isn't, you know, 'cause that,
Oh, okay, so
but go to a park, you know, or someplace, and just notice the, or you don't even have to do that. But it is different to be in the presence of children, and hearing the laughter. And I mean, you
oh
could go
yes,
bike riding at your local park and just pay attention, be aware of the energy of the kids, and let that inform you, or again, kind of like fan the flames of that inner little girl within you, or watch some videos. I mean, my God, Facebook always has great videos of it. They always show me those little shorts
oh
with
yeah, they have all kinds of stuff, all kinds of stuff. So I'm sure there's a lot of really sweet babies and the things that they do and the way they laugh and everything. I know what you mean there, what you're saying, that there's something very special about it. Mhm.
yeah. All right, and this is my cosmic child when he was 12. Oh God, I
Wow.
used to stare
Look
at
at
this.
the hair, eh? Nice curly hair.
Oh my God.
Uh-uh.
Well, and when he FaceTimed me today, you know, it was like, oh, my son, I can't believe you're 30 years old, you know? He's
Yeah,
like, no, I
yeah.
can't either. I don't like it. So, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So this week, do all this with the intention of recovering, if you don't already know it, your heart's deepest longing. So coming back to the center of who you are. But answer that question. What is my heart's deepest longing? And then in terms of physical heart, there's also, what condition is my heart in physically? You know, mine's been messed up for a little bit.
Yeah,
I think we
well,
already
many
discussed
people
this,
can
but
say that. You're not going to be alone on that one, that's for sure.
yeah. Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. George Bernard Shaw, just a really great Leo type of quote. And then the shadow and humor slide, the drama king or the drama queen. So being self-aware enough to know when we're just being dramatic in a way that's over the top, and you know, I
I'm
think
glad you put drama king. I like that, so that it's not just a feminine quality, but it's also a male quality.
it's mostly a quality.
I know, between you and me, us girls are saying, guys, yeah, you're drama king, but I
Mhm.
mean, like you tease, right?
Yep,
The way they
yep.
tease us, so.
Yeah, and just part of it is also to be aware of the shadow would be the ego when it's just gotten out of hand. So the heart, our core, the aromatherapy. Actually, I have another slide on this, but jasmine is the main essential oil, which is considered the king of oils. And it was, I don't know if it still is, but back in the day, it used to be the most expensive, along with rose for Taurus, which is apropos. The healing herb would be St. John's wort and all the plants that thrive in sunlight. Rosemary, which was for Aries, and the sun is exalted in Aries. So it makes sense that those herbs that, like rosemary and St. John's wort, that absorb the light of the sun relate to this archetype. So the usual, what, just get to know, which you already know a lot of it, but see if you can come up with new ways of seeing uh, the sign on your fifth and the symbolism. But the most important things to work with are asking, was I recognized, seen, and given enough attention as a child? Positive regard, because there's negative attention. There's, oh, you bad little girl, you're gonna go in timeout because that is attention. You are being seen, we are being seen, but it's not the kind of being seen and recognition we want. And if it was negative recognition, we got an F on a test or in our report card at school, then that the external authority figures said, oh, you did the math, you didn't study math right, and so I'm going to give you a D or an F. And then of course the other authority figures at home, parents, say, oh, you're going to be grounded until you get your grades back up, kind of a thing. We should be aware of that too, because that's counter to what we're trying to do here, which is to now recognize that we were perfect and we are perfect. That maybe our strong suit wasn't math, that it was art, or whatever. So noticing both, okay, because there's the negative ego, it can also come across as hiding our light. It isn't just like, okay, for example, a bully is the more obvious way of the shadow sun playing out, right? It becomes domineering, dominant, and it pushes everybody around. So I was bullied as a child. There were plenty of bullies in my Catholic school. So that's one end of the shadow ego. But the other end is we hide. We literally take the light that we are and we hide it under the proverbial bushel, right? That's of course what I did. So until one recognizes that pattern in ourselves and we say enough, and you take courage, the heart, to break free from that old patterning. Make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I hear what you're saying too. Like it's interesting, like the sun being the light, is the light being expressed or is the light being hidden away? And I can relate to that too, like as a child, being in that place. I don't know, you're so young, like I can't remember, but hiding the sun. Yep. I totally relate on that. Hiding the sun. Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do I know what my inner genius is? And then, help by looking at the sun. What do you love most about being alive? And what do you love most about yourself? And you can, if you don't know this, which I hope we do, but we can look at the sign and house placement of the sun to give us some indication. How did you view or experience your dad or the male role models? Are you in touch with your own inner divine child? What about you makes you special, and how do you shine? How do you shine is the biggie. What house does Leo rule in your chart? And from there you can extrapolate and answer, do you feel joyful and exuberant about that house's affairs? Um, so okay, so briefly, I'll use myself an example, which I have here in show and tell. I came across this. Get in there. This is a California driver's license. Here's my dad when he was super young.
Oh, wow.
And I guess this was 1970. I think it's a 74. No, here, 1973. So I was 6 years old. When was I born? 60. Yes, I was 6 years old. And oh my God, can you believe what driver? I even found an older one that was a paper. This one's like, it's paper with plastic on it. And now, of course, it's so different. But yeah, so so for me, my father was the best representative of the sun, in the sense that he literally got on stage and performed. I think I may have mentioned that he's a musician. Our music is the tango in Argentina. And my dad would be on stage, and I wanted to be like my dad. I emulated my father. I wanted to be on a stage. And I would watch how people loved him and
Mm.
responded to the way that he just shared what was in his heart, which was the tango, his music, to this day. And he's kind of dying a little bit every day from now, because he doesn't get to do that. He can't get on his stage and perform.
Yeah.
So our light goes out, when we again are not shining, radiating it. This is why it's so freaking important. Anyway, so that said, my father is a Pisces, and I honestly believe that the hardest sign for a man to be born in is Pisces.
Yeah, you think?
I mean, maybe not, but as an observer,
Because
if
they're too sensitive? Is it because the idea of that to be a man, you can't be too sensitive, and Pisces is just too sensitive, you think? Or
yeah, that in part, because the masculine, you it's such a it's, I think, probably the most feminine sign of all. So it I mean, my dad was great for that, but as far as um showing leadership in a more traditional way, my mother wore my mother was an Aries, the
okay,
most
yeah. So she would have been
masculine.
pretty tough. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the total role reversal, but anyways, yeah, so what about your dad? Do you feel comfortable sharing anything?
Sure. I kind of have limited experience actually. Like my natural father, I met as a teenager, and at that time in my life, I was sort of curious and that, but I wasn't overly. I was just kind of like, well, I don't know you, you don't know me, so what? Like a certain age, you kind of like, because he was never in my life, and I wasn't like, oh my God, I really want, like some people want to really know their father. And to me, it's like I couldn't be bothered. So like the father figure I grew up with, he was my stepdad. And to me, as a child, he was my father. And he was quite a piece of work. It's not to say he was totally evil, he had his good points too, but he was a hard character to live with. And he being around him was like being on eggshells, right? Like you
Mm.
just didn't know when he was gonna blow next, right? So you're just kind of like, do I do that? Like, does that work? Like, so I was always trying to, like, how do I get through this? Oh, this might work. But the same thing when work day after day, right? Like you try different things in order to like, so that he wouldn't get too mad,
Mhm.
whatever, get too angry and, or to please, to please, to please. And so I was fairly young and I sort of discovered that you can't please people like you can, but you can't, like if
Mhm.
they don't want something or they don't want to be happy, like what are you going to do about it? Like it's their choice, right?
Mhm.
So now getting back to the whole dad thing, as a young child, he was the role model and he wasn't very nice. Like, he had his moments where he was okay, whatever, but I'm just remembering like, ugh, I don't really want to live in that kind of household. I don't want to live with that kind of person. So that's probably what I carry as like a young child. And then when I got older and, my mom, divorced and, she remarried and she did have he was like a stepfather he was a better guy. Like he was a kinder man. He was more tolerant. He was more like he just wasn't as bad as the other guy. So it's sort of like evolved when I think of like my mother's partners or whatever that, kind of play a bit of a father figure role for me, right? Like it's gotten better over the years. So I didn't really have the most fun as a young child with a dad role model. Like, no, no. Mm.
And so it's not, if you're walking on eggshells, then, and you're, that it sounds like there would have been some hiding, especially from anger or explosions.
Or that's the feeling that you go about, like as I would go about my day. You're just like, ooh, like you don't know if you're gonna get it or not, or who's gonna get it or not, or, you know, if he was working 4 to 12 and you're finishing your school day, you're like, yes. So you go home and you're like, he's not here right now, so you'd be pretty happy about that. So yeah, he could be kind of scary. Like he wasn't physically abusive, but holy
Mhm.
shit, he scared the crap out of you. Just, and you're a little kid and, you know, that was my take on it or whatever. So
Wow. First of all, I acknowledge that can't have, that would not have been pleasant. And I am
no,
sorry for
no.
the child in you that had to go through all that. Oh my God.
Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, it's certainly been a process. And like anybody else, like everybody has things in their life that happens that doesn't happen that they wished or, and all that. And sometimes you have people there as part of your life and it can be very wonderful and it just seems to work well. And then you can go cycles of where it's more difficult or there's more challenges and so anyways, there's been like a lot of things over the years, and it's probably what pushed me towards things like the astrology or the Boda, because like I'm looking for like not so much now, I'm in a different place now, but over the years, looking for ways, how do you cope with this? How do you cope with living in an environment like that? And then you're going about your day and like how do you navigate your environment? How do you navigate your life? Like how do you do anything? If you're kind of like shell shocked or something, like that kind of thing. So it certainly pushed me into different things, like to go forward in different ways. And so yeah, it's been quite the experience, that's for sure.
And sounds like you've done quite a bit of, well, growing up, and that you matured in spite of that. Um, yeah, thank God for astrology and Boda, but as little girls, like you as a little girl, you're speaking about this now as an adult.
Yeah.
As a little girl in that moment, um, I mean, I'm sorry, it's just an astrology class, right? But
Well, astrology is very powerful, I think. There's a lot to it. Like there's more to it, and then it's so hard to explain it or to try and understand and learn it and put it together. Like it's really a massive undertaking. And people that are not into astrology, they don't get it at all. They go, "Oh, that's a nice hobby." And you're like, "No, no, no, you don't understand. There's something about it. I can't explain it maybe, and I can't maybe put it all together right, but like there's something more involved." It's kind of like the Boda stuff. There's more to it than just saying, "Oh, it's a lesson about the tarot," or whatever the lesson, the tree of life or whatever. There's something going on there. There's something more, something more.
yeah,
But it's all good though. And personally, it's been things like that, the people that come in from those places that have helped me along the way. Like, like I haven't done everything by myself, thank God. Like, so, like if you're not physically connected with a family or somebody nearby, then, you know, it can come in different routes. Like sometimes it's through spirit, like it's through something, whether you want to call it a guide or I don't know, whatever you want to call it, and it's true though. I'd say physically, I don't mean to say I'm so deprived or was so deprived, but like people that I may not have known as well, or it could even be strangers coming up to me to encourage me about, I don't know, whatever the thing was or whatever. So like there, you kind of do have support come in different ways. But anyways, like some of it has been pretty darn bumpy. Like it's been some pretty big challenges for me.
so so if I may make a suggestion based on everything you shared,
Mm.
maybe an affirmation customized around that could be something like, I something as simple as, it is safe for me to be me, it is safe for me to walk around being who I am. If you were walking around on eggshells, not never knowing what was around the corner, and like you said, trying to figure out how to navigate each day, each moment, and then taking that inner little Lynn. Is that what you were called as a child, Lynn?
I was Lynn, yeah, always been called Lynn, yeah.
So, maybe find a picture of you when you were maybe at the scariest. You said that he was a pretty scary guy. Well,
Mhm.
at the scariest time, whatever age that was for you, find a picture and do the kind of stuff that Boda teaches if you haven't already done this. I mean, I might be either overstepping boundaries here, or I may be saying something that is like old hat. I don't know. Stop me if I am.
No,
Um,
no, no, it's good because like you're giving me feedback and it's interesting. Like when we're talking here about the sun and everything, it's all about purpose and self-expression and that. And I find it's very pivotal for me at this time. Like over the last year or so, even though, I mean, I probably always say, "Oh, it's so pivotal." But anyways, like there's something very, very remarkable about it. So you're giving me feedback. So you just keep going with it and I'm gonna let you talk. So you go for it.
right. Just, yeah, that what comes to me, like I am imagining and feeling, golly, how scary that was, and the insecurity of never knowing what to do and if it was safe and okay for you to even show up at home. To,
Mhm.
so so that's what I was thinking, is like if you could find a picture of yourself from back then and like transport your now consciousness back, it, as long as it's safe for you to do that, you know. um and and kind of imagine yourself talking to yourself or holding that, you know, I don't know if you were 4 or 5 or 8 or 12, but holding yourself. And I think just being present for that part of you. I don't know if it's easy for you to emote, if crying. I know as a Pisces, it's super easy for me to just go there.
Mhm.
Um, but like listen to that part of you. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but even if you were to do, there's an exercise where you use your right. Are you right-handed?
No, I'm left-handed.
Okay, then the opposite. So your dominant hand being left, you know, you might write down a question that you have for that part of you. Or if you make a statement, you know, what you can ask the question, what do you, little, I don't know, 9-year-old Lynn, need me to know about how you felt? Because as an adult, you know what you felt, you know, and you'll rationalize that away now, like you were sharing that, well, that's why you got into this, that, and the other. Okay, yeah, but how did you feel back then? You know, and allow that child part of you then with the opposite non-dominant hand to write out an answer, um, or just imagine it, you know, and just listen and just be there. Now, this ties directly with last week's class on the mother and nurturing ourselves and being able to mother ourselves and to be able to create a sacred and safe space for ourselves. So you're doing both. You're doing the mothering, you know, holding that space, and you're allowing that part of you that was scared to say whatever it needs to say. Um, so you know, that's just a couple ideas, because I feel that, I think you mentioned that one of the intentions, I could be wrong, could be mixing you up, but that you wanted direction to the next point, and you keep using that word pivotal, pivot, you know, pivot. So
Mhm.
pivot into whatever direction you want to go next. And I
Mhm.
think it's important that that child self that was scared and walked on eggshells be heard enough that it's no longer afraid, that part of you is no longer afraid to show up, to radiate, to do what it needs to do, that it didn't get to do or didn't get to express.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and that might include, spinning is not, it may feel a little bit the same, but it is not the same as going into a skating. Even if you have to drive, I mean, is there a skating rink an hour's drive from you, from where you live?
I'd have to look. I know, like, usually the arenas take their ice out for a little bit and then they put it back in the summer. So, I'm not sure that we're kind of at the point where I'm not
Mm,
sure if there's ice in or not.
okay. All
Mhm.
right. Well, then I'd like for you to get a calendar, find out, call around, find out when they're going to do it. I don't really know what that means. I'm assuming that it means that it's, that when you say they put out the ice, is it literal? They turn the arena into a ice skate rink?
Well, what they do is they turn off the ice plant so it just melts. So then you're left with a cement floor.
Oh, Jesus, how boring is that? Why would they do that?
I think it's because over the summer you don't have all the hockey and skating going on, right? Like people you know, it's summer vacations, break from school and all that. So then they just let it melt. And so it seems to me somewhere towards like in the summer, they put it back in. So then they have like summer school for figure skaters, they have hockey school and stuff, but it varies. Like I'm not into it as much, so I don't really know when they do it.
Well,
I
does
have
it,
to look. I haven't looked at that for a long time, so I don't know.
well,
I'd have to call them.
if it resonates for you,
Mhm.
call them up, call a few places, find out the date, put pencil in it into your calendar and make a commitment to that part of you that had that joy. And clearly you were free of the scary shit at that time when you would go skating. I don't know if there's an overlap of time there for you or not, but you know what I'm saying? Does it
Well,
resonate to do this?
possibly. I mean, I used to love skating. I mean, I used to love it.
But I'm saying, is there an overlap between the scary times and walking on the eggshells
Okay.
and when you could go skating and be free and happy?
Um,
Ages, you know, kind of a thing.
what's that? Age?
Like in your age, in the sequence of life.
Um, well, I mean, I was pretty young when I was skating, and when I would have been probably more afraid. And I mean, we were still all living together, and you know, I'd go to skating, you know, come back home, and sometimes he was the one taking me to skating, you know, like
Mm,
um for the most part there was a certain age around 8 or so on the ice that I really enjoyed it. Like I loved it. And then, you know, you go back home and you resume your life, like whatever,
mm,
you know, go to school, whatever it is you're doing. And
mm. Okay. Well,
I'll
um,
check it out. I'll check it out.
yeah.
I'll see what's around, because I don't know. I don't know
Okay.
what's open or not, or
Okay.
I'd
All
have to.
right. Yes, and then once again, just thank you for sharing that. And I mean, I'm a stranger, so and if you need anybody to hear, you know, if you and you're doing any of this work,
Mhm.
you need somebody to just witness you, just send me a text or an email. I am happy to be there,
Oh,
okay?
well, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So here's the sun card from the Rider-Waite. So Demetra said, I am a unique individual in the world. There is no other like me. I have entered this life with a unique purpose and a contribution to make that is mine and mine alone. So if you use the Rider-Waite card for the sun, you get to imagine yourself riding that horse, you know, with the sun behind you and making the statement. All right, so in terms of music, it's anything that is light and playful and fun. Um, uh, I don't know if it's gonna play this. I'm gonna just post this part in the group so that we don't take
Okay.
time for this. But to this song, "This Light of Mine" is so freaking powerful for this. And if we were together, we would play this and dance in class together.
Mhm.
Then biblically speaking, Matthew said, there's this passage, let the light of your life shine in such a way that others see your good deeds and bring glory to your Father in heaven. Granted, there's other parts in the Bible that said not to do it to for others to see your good deeds, that God knows, you know, whatever.
Mhm.
But the idea, the gist of it is to just shine your light. It's pretty straightforward. Um, and then oh, finally, one of the animations. So of course the sun is about our birthday. And so um just that, maybe commit to your whatever your next birthday is. And I know for both of you, we just passed both your
Yeah.
birthdays recently,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
definitely celebrate yourself. The same way that maybe you celebrated your children's birthdays, you know, like give yourself permission to go there, because that's ultimately what this is all about. Food is fun foods, food that you can play with your hands, like finger foods, literally hot, fiery foods. Consider the environment. I have no clue what I meant by that. No clue whatsoever. And I'm thinking like carnival foods, like dogs, hot dogs on a stick, or you know, stuff like that. Just things that are childlike, cotton candy, shit that you're not supposed to eat, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The stones, the metals, and the crystals. So clearly it's gold, and transmuting the lead, which we kind of just talked about, the fearful child, those moments that you were in fear, that would be the lead transmuted into the gold, which now as an adult you clearly understand maybe the potential lesson behind all that. Anyways, so the stones are anything that are reds and golds, and of course pyrite. As we already said, jasmine, the king of oils, it blooms when the sun is in Leo. It's an aphrodisiac, so there's the love and the lover part of it. It stimulates creativity, increases self-confidence, and actually it's very healing for the heart. Like in any aromatherapy blend for people that have had heart attacks or surgeries, or it's an emotional type of heart thing, you include jasmine. It's very healing. For the body, I would say to do the sun salutation in yoga practice, which Ayana, I'm sure, could teach us about.
She could teach us. Yeah.
Yes, lead us in one of those. So, you know, just try to see yourself through the eyes of spirit, of your spirit. The main teaching, I've already said this a lot, is basically that the sun is your core vibrational frequency. And even in the earth, it has a molten hot center, right? And it's just pure heat. So no matter what, there's this idea of something at our very core that we need to activate. So focus on activating those inner fires, that flame, and your creative will. The ultimate solar message is to move toward your vision is wisdom. Enjoying the journey is love. And this you're going to recognize. All the power that ever was or will be is here now. I am a center of expression for the primal will to good, which eternally creates and sustains the universe. Through me, its unfailing wisdom takes form in thought and word. And, you know, it's just those first statements from the pattern on the trestle board. They just seem to encapsulate that for me, this idea of the vibrational core frequency and the idea of bringing that divine through the attunement and alignment out into the world. Oh, we already did this one. So just embody the star that you are, because the sun is in fact a star. The keys, you know, are for Leo is key 8, strength, and for the sun is the sun card itself, key 19. So, you know, what does the strength card teach us? It's, I believe, in part, it's alignment with the heart, and that it overcomes all fear. We are not scared of the lion, but we are able to tame the lion through our heart, through the love that we pour. So there's, I think, also a sense of connection and oneness that the card represents, which just allows us to be able to find the key that's hidden within the lion's mouth. And with the sun, to me, it's all about that joy and the vibrancy. and everything that we talked about today. What about you? How do you see these?
Um, well, coming to mind, I find when I'm looking at the strength card, one of the things that comes up is mastery,
Mm-hmm.
mastery. And mastery is a process that takes courage. Like, there's great strength that we have and we don't necessarily realize. And part of realizing the strength is a mastery. And then when I see the son and the children, it seems to be like a reminder of how, like, being the child, being childlike, all those things that you mentioned, you know, like that playful, joyful, um, just that, you know, that innocence, like that, just like to not be too serious. Like, yes, you know, you have to be serious in a way, but when it, like, not to the nth degree. So it's a reminder to go to the center because they're in the center. And yeah, just like, you know, childlike, that it's a way in to be moderate, you know, if you have that childlike aspect. Mhm.
Very good. Um, you could also, if you, depending on how deep you want to go, take the sun card for the sun, and then take, in your case, the moon card and put them together, right? Sun and Pisces, and develop a conversation there. For Ayana, it would be the sun card with the Empress. I'm sorry, no, Taurus, with the Hierophant. So put the sun card next to the Hierophant, which is key 5, which is representative of Taurus. And again, kind of like play around with that and see what develops. This is Sebastian again when he was about same thing, 12.
Nice head of hair. Man, nice hair. That's all I can say. He's got nice hair, that boy.
Oh my God, my little Aquarian nutso. I love
Yeah,
him.
hamming it up, eh?
Oh man, did he ever? We had
Damn.
a lot of fun that night. I will never forget that night. So the idea, just again, not afraid to goof off, not afraid to look silly and be silly and
Mhm.
all this. So, and then with the picture on the right, it was just an internet picture I found because I was looking for a child painting, and especially specifically finger painting. So to just, you already said you did like to do graphics with geometry and the a
Yeah, like
mandala
draw
perhaps.
and
So,
paint. Yeah.
so definitely, if you want to take it to the next level, use whatever you have on hand. It could also be a treasure map made up of pictures of your best, most perfect, innocent self, or whatever it is, you know, just have fun with it and let the joy come out. So I think I already gave you plenty of home play, but bottom line is to explore your creativity, to either spend time with children or remembering what it was like to be the happy child, to explore the archetype and your experience with father and what that is. This is a picture of my husband Marcus with his dad, who was German and who was in Germany at the time of the Nazis and everything, and he barely escaped. So, and then the heart, whether physical heart or metaphorical heart, of course, the workbook, and watching for the shadow in your life and in yourself. And just doing your best to connect with whatever aspect of the divine masculine here, of course, Jesus, Yeshua, shining from his sacred heart to remind us that that's hopefully what we do ourselves in life. What? I have more slides? Oh my goodness. Oh, we're almost done. Oh my God, I'm actually, holy crap, oh, I did it. Okay, so just yeah, the healthy ego and the ego shadow. So if I can, I'll post this image in the group because it has some real good stuff. I'm sure you've seen it before. And once again, the idea, I love this image, the sun and developing the outer sun and the inner sun by the deeper pull of what you truly love. So again, it's just answering that question. What was I had it? I had that slide. I wanted you to answer, what is my heart's deepest longing? And no matter what, having the courage to admit if you're afraid of something, but you're still going to do it, like little Superman here. Once again, Yeshua with the idea of the Sacred Heart. And show and tell. Yeah, so was there anything else about your chart that you wanted to bring up in relation to this archetype, either the sun or Leo or the fifth house? And then share something if you would like.
I'm trying to think of a question. Like, I'm sort of thinking about the fifth house where I have a south node Libra, or the cusp is Libra. And then I don't know as much as about the asteroids. I mean, I could read up about that. And then I have Neptune and Scorpio in the fifth house.
So if the fifth house is the house of your joy, traditionally speaking, there's I would consider that the south node is potentially a block to your joy.
Okay.
If we want to read it in a way that could potentially bring up some self-awareness and healing. If the south node is the past, and if it's the karma of the past and old habits and that may still be showing up in our lives now, in your life, and it's in Libra, then it could potentially point to the idea of some form of codependency or some form of indecisions, inability to stand your ground, kind of a tendency to flip-flop between situations, or either being too objective or not being objective enough. But it always has to do with other people. And since Libra is the sign of relationships and how we relate to others, so it could be any one of those. You tell me what aspect of Libra shadow, if you know Libra well enough, or any of the things I just said, do you identify?
Well, it's funny in a way, because I'm thinking I never would have really thought it in the past, or it maybe just didn't occur to me, might be the better way to say it, about being codependent. I think I think there's a strong line with codependence and the issues arising with it, where I wouldn't want to continue doing it, right? Like, I wouldn't want to continue that line because it certainly wasn't working. So there's that. And the whole like flip-flopping, indecisive, I'm thinking, is that Pisces or is that, Libra? But certainly a factor of flip-flopping, not standing my ground type thing. Oh yeah, for sure.
Especially when it comes to, if 5 is children, but 5 is also lovers, then yeah, like, did you have a tendency to give up your desires, your wants, in favor of what your kids or what your lovers or husbands or boyfriends or whatever,
Mhm.
to the
Oh yeah.
point that you didn't count yourself, you didn't matter. Um, and that actually does dovetail with shadow Pisces. So that South Node in Libra, together with not not developing a healthy sense of Pisceanness, because Pisces is known for self-sacrifice and not having an identity. So is it any wonder then that you have the North Node in the most self-oriented sign
Mhm.
as saying, this is your new direction. This is what you need to be doing. You need Pisces, Lynn, to have a sense of personal identity. You need South Libra, the South Node Libra, Lynn, to choose yourself first in these situations.
Mhm.
Um, so I would suggest that you make decisions that bring you a greater experience of personal joy from this position.
Mhm. Oh yeah, like I think going back in time, I there was certainly a time where I wouldn't recognize it. Like like you're sleepwalking. I was sleepwalking through things, right? So it wouldn't necessarily occur to me when I was younger. And I mean, certainly as I've gotten older and doing things like this, the astrology and Boda and different things like that, then I can, especially with the chart. The chart I find validates my experiences, right? Like it, so then I don't have to wonder, is it all in my head? You know, is it just me? But when I see the chart and as I'm learning the chart, I'm thinking it validates my life experience. So for sure, I've had a tendency way too much to consider, oh gee, what do you want over here? And oh gee, what do you want over there? And what can I do to help you? Or at least not, like do something that will promote you so you can get what you need where you need to go, and so on and so on. And as I've gotten older, especially I think with when I started taking on this job, like like I'd say I was forced. I wanted the job, I took the job, but then it put me in situations where I had to kind of say, I'm gonna go do this, or I need to do that. I need this to help me. I need you to hear what I'm saying. And so it's been a lot of practice, even though you practice all throughout your life. I'm not going to say it was just one job, but it really intensified the experience of like, have you figured out some of this, like, like to kind of gel it and bring it together and stuff. But oh yes, like I've certainly been learning about that. I like to think that I did learn a few things to kind of recognize it and be aware when certain things come up, to kind of catch it quicker,
Mhm.
or just nip it right from the get-go and say, we're not doing this, I'm sorry. I can't do that because, and whatever my story is, or,
And you
I
don't even have to give anybody your story. You can just say, just because, go to the ultimate. I know that sounds anathema to your Pisceanness, but it's like sometimes it's just no, just
oh
no.
yes, and I'm much better at it where, oh yeah, like so part of me is like, oh yeah, like, but no, really, like I mean, I can always improve. I'm not going to say that I'm there yet 100%, but oh yeah, I'd say over the last few years, the last couple years, like it's more and it's more and it's more, like it's always like it's really, I feel like it's coming together more, like oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
Beautiful,
Oh yeah.
beautiful.
Mhm. Better,
Yeah,
better.
cool. Yeah. I mean, yeah, life is understood in hindsight or something, It's like we
Oh
get
yeah, that is true too. You'll see it so much clearer. You go like, oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I'll
but you're
take that.
absolutely right. With a chart in hand, you totally everybody, if they knew their own chart, then everyone would be able to say, I understand. And now I can choose a higher way of working with such and such an energy. So, what would be the higher way of working with the higher frequency way of utilizing the South Node in Libra in the fifth house? You could say something like, I choose, because it's about choice. And with this joy, so how about something about choosing when you give of yourself? So you, or I choose when to experience joy in relationship with such and such, and you know what I'm saying? So something along those lines to turn it into a positive. And just to bring back your thing about how much joy you got out of skating. Skating requires balance, so there's the healthy side of that Libra experience of playfulness and joy. Hello, my love. um so I don't know, maybe you can do something. If you feel like you're about to go into the shadow of it, do the opposite. Not just say no, but do something that physically, because I'm a big believer in of finding the physical correspondent to whatever the metaphorical energy. So
Okay.
if if it's about balance and lack of balance in Libra, energetically with others, then do something physically that you can experience you choosing balance. So maybe if you can't go ice skating, what else can you do physically with your body that brings you into a physical experience of balance? Something simple that you can do at home. I mean, it could be as simple as you literally stand strong on both your feet equally, but with intention and awareness. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And it would be very simple to do. Like it'd be very simple to do. Yeah.
Yeah, like in hypnosis, it's called a touchstone. I think it's called touchstone. Anyways, it's just something, a quick, easy exercise for grounding.
Yeah. Grounding. Yeah. I was thinking it's like a grounding thing that I'm totally in my body in the moment right now type thing.
Perfect. Yep. And Ayana, just email me when you hear this, and I'll give you, or I'll witness you sharing around that. Yeah, because without the presence, I can't. It's harder to do feedback and stuff. So, anything you wanted to share from show and tell? Do you want to do it here? Do you want to do it online?
Um, oh, I actually, I was thinking ahead of time. Um,
Oh,
yeah, I was like, oh, you're gonna say show and tell, and then I'm gonna be like, oh my God, show and tell. What am I gonna do? So I thought I'm gonna show you a little doodle thing I did, and it's been a while. I haven't done them in a while there now, but I was doing like the flower of life type thing. So I was doing a thingy, and I have so much fun just drawing circles and circles, and then I color it, and so I have a good old time doing that. So I'll say as a creative endeavor where I get to have fun and color and paint and stuff. I like doing that stuff like that.
well, that there's balance right there. Look at how you perfectly create it. So beauty's another one. So you that feels like a healthy way of that South Node in
Yeah.
Libra
I
too.
think this week that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the time. I've been thinking about it for a few weeks there. I'm like, oh, I saw Miss Coloring. Oh, I saw Miss Coloring. I want to I want to color something, or like the time in drawing it out, and then I get to paint it or whatever. And so I'm thinking, oh, I'm so overdue. I'm gonna have to start working on one. So maybe that's what I'll do this week is I'll start my um I'll do a new one where I'm gonna draw it up, and because I mean you can do so many variations, right? So I'm kind of overdue. So maybe this will be the week.
Beautiful. Okay. Yeah. I look forward to seeing that. Um, And I'm just going to post my picture of my show and tell. Oh, good, we did it. Okay, well, we still went over, but we actually did it because I can keep this archetype in one, and I could have gone on and on and on and on. Or, oh, you know
Oh,
what?
no.
The I did want to pull the cards if you want me to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's do
You
that.
want to? You
Like to
want?
see what you're gonna pull out.
I'll do it, and I'll pull mine and Ayana's off the or maybe not. Let's see. Let's just do it quickly. All right. So first off, let's see. There's tarot for kids.
Ooh, okay.
I figured I would get cards that have to do with kids, and so the oracle is called "Manifest Your Magnificence" for kids aged 6 to 12 years old. And yeah, let's do that. Let's do that one. All right, so let's see. The tarot card could be represent, let's see, what can we ask here? What message your radiant inner child, the joyful, perfect, innocent child within you before the woundingness, wants you to either work on or recognize or come into awareness of as you explore this archetype this week. How about that?
All right.
Okay. So you tell me when you want me to stop, and then we'll cut.
Okay. Okay.
Cut it in two. I mean, cut twice or once.
Let's cut twice.
1, 2. Okay, and we've already started with this one today.
Ah,
It's the 10 of Swords.
ooh, okay.
All right, so this is completion on something that caused you to suffer as a child.
I
All right.
believe that.
Okay,
I believe that card. Actually, I believe that card.
that's good. All right, and let's pull the manifest your magnificence as the message, that same part of your consciousness offers as either a tool, yeah, as a tool for working on this. Sound good?
Okay.
A message which becomes a tool. This one's hard to shuffle.
So I get to say, do you
Yeah.
want me to say when now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. How many times should I cut?
Let's cut it once.
Oh, this is beautiful. I am complete.
That sounds pretty darn good. Okay.
So that's interesting because it's the child is, he's got crutches, or in this case, you, she, and it feels like letting go, doesn't is complete with whatever the crutch is. So there is something there. Okay. And then notice that it's light. It almost looks like a match. And it's on fire. I don't know. That's what I'm seeing. But I'll take the pictures as always, and you can sit with it. And
Okay.
then the back of the card has a message too. And
Oh,
look at that. There's a sun radiating. Oh, this is
look
beautiful,
at
Lynn.
that. Awesome. Sun. Yes.
I come fully equipped to do the things I need to do in the world. So this is beautiful. Oh my gosh. All
Isn't
right.
it nice? I find it's very nice. It's very uplifting. Yeah. And it's nice with it being about the sun and everything.
Yes, let me take a picture before I put it back in the deck. And then I think we'll go ahead and pull Ayana's and yours so that it could be on the recording.
Sure.
Oh, I gotta take the back of it too. All right, so let's pull for her. All right, so this is Ayana's perfect, innocent, and our little girl wants her to know, become aware of, and recognize during this week's exploration with the fifth archetype. And then cut twice. 7 of coins. So this one is about the patience and dedication it takes to in working the field of one's consciousness, or let's see, in relation to her son. So the development of something, the seeds that she planted in childhood, or the expectation. It also looks like it's what's that word? Reaping, sowing and reaping. That's it. So let's now pull the tool. It'll make more sense once she fills us in on what her experience is. Oops. I am a winner. It also has like a sort of, it could be seen as a sun. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
And the back says, I choose to walk tall and feel good about myself. And look at how they're discs. So we had the 7 of Pentacles, right? And then there's discs here. Now, I mean, there's this sense of being bent over. So it's interesting about walking tall. So I wonder how that relates to her and her story as a child with this archetype in the sun. All right, so I'm going to take a picture of that and send it off. I'll put it in the group too. And I'm trying to think, do these, the oracle cards do not have a book, so I won't write that, but there is one for the tarot cards and her understanding, so I'll go ahead and post that.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you for being here, Lynn.
Well, thanks for doing the class, Sylvia.
Yeah, well, it's my pleasure, and I am very, very pleased that it came out to be a great class. Ayana, we miss you. We hope you're okay, and we'll see you hopefully next week. We'd love to have you here. And so enjoy this week, Lynn and Ayana. And
Yep, thank you very much. You have a good week too.
all right. Thank you. Big hugs. Bye.
Bye.